Born with smaller than average sized lungs, highly asthmatic. I was a 3-time Navy SEAL platoon commander. I was a CEO of an Inc. 500 company. I was a Division I athlete, and I have failed at every single one of those things more times than I've succeeded. Everybody hears about all the accolades, but they don't hear about all the failures. And I hope today that's something we can cover.
Welcome to the Yeah But podcast, where leaders transform excuses into breakthroughs. I'm Marc Wolfe, host and author of Yeah But. I interview New York Times bestselling authors, human rights activists, former CIA director, and everyone in between. Our guests share how they overcome doubts like I'm not ready to yeah, but I don't have time. Join us to learn how you can do the same. Hello, Alden Mills, and welcome to the Yeah But podcast.
Mark, it is great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Here's a few questions for you. Tell us two things about you personally. Tell us two things about you professionally, and then why it should matter to our audience.
The first personal one, born with smaller than average sized lungs, highly asthmatic. That's part one. Part two, married for 28 years with 4 boys, 2 of which are now playing Division I sports. One's a co-captain at USC water polo, and one is the youngest true freshman to be starting on the offensive line for University of Washington. Never got chat about that before. And 2 professionals. I was a 3-time Navy SEAL platoon commander. I was a CEO of an Inc. 500 company. I was a Division I athlete, and I have failed at every single one of those things more times than I've succeeded. And I want to really tie those two things together because that's something that I think is really important. Everybody hears about all the accolades, but they don't hear about all the failures. And I hope today that's something we can cover.
Tell me more about what people see externally where you are now, but how you got there and where you struggled and even could add a yeah, but and stopped.
Throughout my life, I'd make these movies in my head. They were future movies. And I call these movies outcome movies. And I was a daydreamer, right? I had a hard time concentrating from one thing to the next. But the one thing I would like to do was think about, hey, what if? What if I was able to do this? What if the doctors said, the asthmatic thing, forget about chess. What if I could be great at this sport? Or what if I became a Navy SEAL? Or what if I graduated from the Naval Academy? Or what if this product finally took off after all these ones failed? That's the thing that keeps driving. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about what happened yesterday. I think about what's the thing I can do today that can make a difference in starring in that movie in the future.
When you talk about your mindset and how to overcome, was this something that was ingrained in you from the beginning, or is this something you had to learn over time?
My first leadership coach was my mom. I was lucky, blessed to have her. And, let me just give you a brief example of mom in action. All right. She was asthmatic and had a brain tumor, had a feeding tube for the last 25 years of her life. But she was always positive and focused. And here it was, I'm 12 years old. I go see this doctor in the big city of Worcester, Massachusetts, right? It's not that big of a city, but I grew up in a very small town in central Massachusetts. And this doctor had these thick Coke bottle glasses, made his eyeballs look larger than they were. And he looked like an older Danny DeVito with white wispy hair and a bald scalp. And he had me go into his office and I was blowing in all these machines. And then after a while, he raised his hand and goes, I see what the problem is here. He held up this chart, right? And he said, you see this first line here, Mrs. Mills? He wasn't talking to me. This is an average 12-year-old boy's size of his lungs, okay? Your son's way down here. You see that? He's born with smaller than average size lungs. And then he flips the chart again. He goes, and you see this line here? This is the airflow coming out of his lungs. It's constricted. It's constricted because he's got reactive airway disease. We call that asthma. You see, there's two things he's going to have to do. Number one, he's going to have to take medicine for the rest of his life. And number two, he needs to lead a less active lifestyle. I suggest the game of chess, right? Boom! I immediately accept my fate. Chin goes down on my chest. Mom taps me on the shoulder and goes, "Why don't you go wait outside? I'll talk to the good doctor from here." And I'm sitting in the lobby, right? Big crocodile tears comes out. And after a while, she comes out, hands on her hips, like this offensive mom position, taps my foot with her foot. And she's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Mom, chess. I'm terrible at checkers. How am I going to learn how to play chess?" And she had these long French cuticle nails, like little velociraptor claws, right? And she, boom, dug them into my forearm, dropped down to her knee, and she goes, "You look at me. Look at me. No one decides what you can or can't do but you. All right? I'll get you that medicine, but you got to decide what you can do. Now get up and let's get going." And you say that back to me. And, I said it back to her just because I wanted those claws to release. So I was like, "Okay, no one decides what I can do but me, Mom." And I didn't get it that week. I didn't even get it that month, but she kept having me try out for these different sports. And if you had asked me a third personal thing, I scored against my own team in 4 sports. How many people can say that? Scored against my own team in basketball. I was so excited to get the rebound that I just threw it right back up there. It was my one basket. I scored against myself in lacrosse as a goalie. That's really easy to do when you tip your goalie stick back. I was fourth line, the only lineman on the hockey JV team, skated the puck right into the net because I wasn't that great of a skater. And then I kicked a soccer ball into another goal. I was not a good athlete when it came to sports with balls and pucks and things like that. But then I found the sport of rowing, and she just kept encouraging me, right? Again and again and again. And I was lucky for that. When I find the sport of rowing, I figure out that I could sit on my butt and go backwards for long periods of time, and it was about suffering. And I bring all that up to everybody because at some point, whether it's Mom or it's Yeah, But the book or the Unstoppable Mindset book, it's Marc, it's Alden, it's somebody out there that keeps whispering in your ear when you forget to whisper it to yourself. Hey, try again. Get up. Keep going. Those are the words that will lead you to success if you can remember to keep going when you get all these yeah buts bouncing around in your head.
Wow. That's that's a great that's a great story, and it's so good to hear it from somebody who lived it. And
Still live it.
right,
It's not
be-
over, Mark. Right?
and it's
Still go.
be- right, but the thing is that your lungs, right? You still have these stories, you still have these things that seem like failures. I mean, social proof of doing the right thing. Who would want to pick you for a sport when they knew that you're going to score on them or you're not really good at it or things like that? It's like, it's just a lot of things that you probably have to go through during that time. So, how did you ever deal with even though your mom was tenacious about speaking into your life, how did you ever think about yeah, what if I fail?
The what if I failed in the beginning wasn't that hard for me because I was like, all right, well, I failed at basketball. Everyone told me that I had big legs and I couldn't jump, and I just got used to being that one that they made fun of. But but what if I failed came to the front of my list was when if I failed, I died. That became a really intense conversation. I'll give you a couple examples. Uh, what if I failed at doing a 5.5 mile ocean swim? My lungs are filling up with blood and I'm literally drowning. And it's because I kept pushing myself and I was taking this asthmatic medicine. What happens then? What happens if my parachute from 24,000 feet doesn't open up? What happens when you go out on a patrol in Bosnia and there is a legitimate chance that a sniper is going to get you? What if in your classified combat mini submersible, the air runs out or you end up running under the wrong boat at the wrong time, right? Those are serious failures. And you really have to grapple with the extent of what that failure would be. And I got to tell you, for me personally, the first, yeah, but what if I failed, came front side focus for me. I'm 22 years old. I was actually on a 3 mile ocean swim, prepping for the 5.5 mile ocean swim. My lungs start filling up with blood. I get pulled out of the water. I'm basically drowning in my own fluid. They take me, rush me to the hospital. They do a series of blood tests. They realize I have a foreign antigen in my body. It's asthma medicine. They raid my room. They find the medicine. They plop a medical discharge paper on my desk and they're like, sign it. You shouldn't even be here. It's amazing you got as far as you did. And I'm halfway through training. I said I was taking it for performance enhancement. A lot of us took different things for performance enhancement. They didn't believe me. They pulled me out of class. They said, yeah, well, if you are able to pass this methacholine challenge, they stick you in this little box and they pump it full of this mist and they're testing your lungs before and after. You pass that, we'll put you back. But then you're going to have to go through 6 more weeks of training again, which was miserable. One day is like a dog year. And I got to this point where I'd been taking this medicine for 10 years, from 12 to 22. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm out of options. I've tried every single thing I could possibly do. Where am I going to go? Where am I going to turn to? And the only thing left I had, and I am not much of a spiritual or religious person, I'll put it at that. At the time I was thinking about it, I'm walking by a church in Coronado. It was middle of the day. Remember, I'm basically kicked out of SEAL training, trying to fight my way back in. I walked into a church. I'm not even Catholic. I think it was a Catholic church. I dropped to my knees and I had a conversation with a big man. And I said, hey, I need some help. I'm stuck. If I fail at this, a couple of bad things could really happen. And I remember at that point starting to let go and creating some faith around someone other than myself. Faith's an interesting lightning rod of a word these days. And I talk about it in Unstoppable Mindset. If you look up the definition of faith in the Oxford Dictionary, the first definition is having 100% confidence in someone or something other than yourself. Now, in my particular case, I picked God. I needed to have some kind of faith to get over this yeah, but of what if I fail? I needed some support there. And then I just started practicing that, right? I'd have my own little conversation in the morning, sometimes in the middle of the day, sometimes right before I get in that water to redo all that work that I had to do again. I stopped taking the medicine. I said, it's not meant to be if I can't get through this. And that became kind of a partnership for me when I got put up against every powerful, yeah, but what if I fail? And the consequences could be really ugly. And I found that became like a fifth gear when you had that kind of faith. And by the way, when you have that kind of faith, people will have that faith in you because they'll see that confidence in you, right? You can have that in other people. That's a very personal challenge that I had to come up with a solution for when I was dealing with that level of failure.
Hey there, it's time for a quick break. While we're diving into how to live, learn, and lead better, I wanted to let you in on something I'm really excited about. If you've ever found yourself stuck in the yeah but cycle, those moments where excuses get in your way of your potential, my new book, Yeah But, Cut Through the Noise to Live, Learn, and Lead Better, is for you. The book is packed with practical strategies, real stories, and actionable advice to help you stop making excuses and start making progress. Whether you're a leader, a learner, or just someone looking to cut through the noise, Yeah But has something for you. And here's the best part. For a limited time, you can grab a chapter for free. Just head over to my website at www.marcawolfe.com/book to get started. Readers have already said that the perspective and stories guided them to get unstuck and move forward. All right, let's get back to the show and dive into more ways to break through those yeah but moments.
Great story about that, because a lot of people that didn't have issues, health issues and stuff, still failed out at SEAL training, still had desire to want to do it and had the ability to do it, but didn't have the mindset or the will or other things. So how do you look at that when you know that you were ready, right? Because another yeah, but you mentioned was, yeah, but I'm not ready, when you talked about things that you were going to discuss. What's ready look like when you say you're not?
Oh, so the big, yeah, but I'm not ready came right as we started Hell Week. When I went through SEAL training, Hell Week was the 6th week of training. Hell Week is this period of time where they keep you up from a Sunday night to a Friday afternoon. They give you a total of about 3.5 hours of sleep. They had 3 8-hour shifts and fresh Navy SEAL instructors just pounding on you all the time. I became the last officer in my class. We lost one right before to severe injury, broke his hip. And here I am, the most junior officer and 33 enlisted. And we get to Tuesday night and the class is now down to 18. And they pull me aside where everyone's middle of the night. And they're like, Mr. Mills, come on over here for a minute. And we've been rolling around in the water and we were all wet and sandy, and you're shaking because you're just hypothermic all the time. And they're like, they bring me over to the truck where the bell is sticking out of the trailer hitch. And like, Mr. Mills, we have a question for you. I'm like, yeah, what's up, instructor? And he's like, do you have any idea why so many guys are dropping out of this class? I looked at him and I'm like, no. And he's like, we know. It's because of you. It's because you're a bad leader. Matter of fact, you're so bad that you're going to get people killed in SEAL team in your platoon. How are you going to feel about that? You see, they're all quitting because of you. And I was like, what? All right, now I'm going through this in my head. And he goes, as a matter of fact, this class is getting so small that it's not worth the taxpayers' money to keep it going. So we're going to shut the class down after you quit, and we're just going to roll it into another class because there's no leaders in this class. So you just come over here and ring that bell, and then we'll get you out of here, okay? Because you don't want that on your conscience. And I remember thinking for that moment, I was like, no, I definitely don't want to kill other SEALs. And then I was like, wait a second. Even if I'm not ready right now, I still have 20 more weeks of training. And then I got more training after that. And I know that I had been the captain of the crew and I got elected by leaders at the Naval Academy. And even if I'm not ready to be a SEAL trainer right now or a leader right now, I'll be ready in the future because each day will help me get better. And I literally remember picking up one foot, starting to move towards that bell. And I was like, no, I'll get ready. I'll be ready by the time it really hits. I've got more time. And I turned away. And then we go, oh, we almost had him.
Yeah, it's a game, right? It's a mental game to help you fold in on yourself, right? To start believing what other people are saying about you, even though you know it's not true, but if they could get you then, right? Then you're out.
Yeah. And so that's the rub, Mark. It's making sure that you know it's not true. They may think it's true because they've never been in your position except for those SEAL instructors, right? Matter of fact, all of them were enlisted. They had never been a class leader. Not to my knowledge, you could be a class leader, but in my case, here I am, this young officer, and they're not me, and I'm not them. And getting people to have the perspective of saying, hey, you're one of one. I know you think you're similar, but don't compare yourself, because I'll tell you, it typically isn't helpful. If you're comparing yourself and you're finding yourself to do something helpful, great. But otherwise, don't compare yourself to anybody, because typically it's hurtful.
Yeah, I tell people often, especially leaders, to compare yourself to yourself, right? So you can start seeing the progress you make. Because if you compare yourself to other people constantly, there's always somebody better and always somebody worse. So are you good with that, right? It's got to be, you in your story, you could look at people that, like I said, didn't have lung issues, didn't have other issues like this, and they didn't make it and be like, well, if they can't, I can't. When you compare yourself to yourself, you look and go, what am I capable of? What am I not seeing in myself? What have I actually overcome in the past? Or who do I want to be seen as for myself? Right? I'm an executive coach. I don't do psychology, but I do. Why do we always undermine ourselves so often? And it never turns out well when we start doing that. And that's why I care so much about yeah buts, and you care about unstoppable mindset, because we know it starts and stops with mindset.
100%. And the yeah buts are the first part to me of the wheel that gets you thinking whether you can or you can't. You have to be able to get over the yeah buts. And then you got to shift your focus from the yeah but to the what if, and start taking the action that's going to be helpful, and then build up a belief system that will allow you to keep pressing on.
A lot of people don't know where to start. And I know that's one of the things you mentioned too was, yeah, but I don't know where to start. So you go through a lot of different things, but people don't know, okay, now I'm here. Where do I start?
I have done 5 different career paths. Navy SEAL, platoon commander, did that for 7 years. Went to business school, then worked in technology as a director of business development for a while. Then I went and started a fitness company, failed. Started another fitness company, failed. Started a third fitness company, Inc. 500. Then started a pet company, that's still going. Started a security company, failed. Got on the speaking circuit, took a while. Still on the speaking circuit, now doing leadership consulting, working. Didn't work at first. Author, took 38 different publishers before one would publish my book, right? Every step along that way, you had to figure out where we're going to start. And a lot of times I had no idea where to start. The first thing I would do, and everybody's going to laugh about, I still do it every morning. Wake up, even though I think about what I've got going on for this day, I'll do 2 things. I'll make my bed and I'll do some push-ups. When I do those 2 things, I've already completed a couple actions. By the way, one of them makes me actually feel better, gets me fired up for the day. That's the push-ups, right? And then the next thing I'll do, if I'm really stuck on where I need to start, I go find somebody that's already done what I'm trying to do. And if I can't talk to that person, and in today's world of the Google machines and the Chat GPT machines, we can find out something about how they got started. And I can look at that and then break it down and then chunk away. Now, I didn't have those things when I first was coming out of SEAL training, trying to start this fitness company. And what did I do? I went and talked to some future customers and asked them, hey, if I built this, what would you think about it? And then I was trying to do technology, and I had to go talk to technologists, and I had to go talk to authors, and I talked to people who were on the speaking circuit, and I talked to people who were rowing before I was, who became captains at the Naval Academy. How'd you do what you did, right? It's not complicated. It's just hard. It's hard to take a new action. And that's what we're after. You have to take a new action. And by the way, when you take this new action, don't at all be surprised that it doesn't go well at first. And I want you to think about this for a second. When you're doing something new to you that you've never done before, playing lacrosse goalie for the first time, or trying to skate, or being a defensive soccer player, or, oh, by the way, I wrestled too. That didn't always go too great. But when you're trying to do something new to yourself, don't think it's going to go great at first. Matter of fact, it's pretty common that it isn't going to go great. You're going to fail a fair amount, but it's only failing if you didn't learn from it. And give yourself a pat on the back for trying. And then try a little bit harder, try a little different ways. Go talk to some people that have started this before you, because watch what will happen. You'll accelerate and get a little bit better every time you try again.
You're talking about fixed versus growth mindset, right? A lot of, hey, if I fail, I'm a failure versus if I fail, what can I learn from it? It's interesting, we both do keynote speaking and things like that. And I tell people when they start something, I was like, the first one you ever do will be your worst. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, well, if the first one was your best, you're only getting worse. So the first one better be your worst and you only improve. What you continue to remind us is that it's about trying something new. And I think people forget that everything that they've ever done, they had to start with doing it because it was new to them. When I hear you talking about this, when you talk about it, do you really care about what people think about you though? Because there's a lot of people out there that are really concerned in public and private about what other people think.
I don't lose any sleep over it. In the very beginning, when I started, I'll tell you one of the things I really struggled with was, what are my Navy SEAL teammates going to think if I've invented the perfect push-up? And for the longest time, I didn't want to say invented by a Navy SEAL. I wanted to keep it completely out of it. I didn't want to associate it with SEAL team. And my infomercial director was like, Alden, that is your bona fide to prove to people that this is actually a good product. And they're not going to know you from Adam if you don't do that. And that in the beginning held me back. I started thinking too much about, well, what was SEAL team going to think? And then other SEALs came along and were like, Alden, first of all, this is a great product. We're proud of you. You give back to the community. And second of all, what do you think all of us do when we retire and we leave SEAL team? We use the Navy SEAL to get the job, to help us do the leadership and do those things. And, I never wanted to over glamorize it or put it out there. And today I feel like I'm doing it in a very tasteful manner. I'm certainly not giving away secrets or anything along those lines. But that was an example of something where I really struggled when I thought about someone thinking about me. And today, my front side focus is really thinking about, how can I help somebody go do something new to them and then be there for them when it doesn't go their way, to say, hey, it's just part of the process. I get back up and let's go do this again. And we're going to do it a little bit better this time. Watch what will happen. I get the greatest joy out of helping people do something they originally thought was impossible, because they don't realize actually how powerful they are.
So as we kind of get ready to close, talk about something that you think and other people think are impossible to do, but you put it out there that you want to do it.
Okay. The best way I think about this is in a metaphor. Everybody has their own horizon. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. If you're a 6 foot tall person standing on a dead calm day, looking directly out to sea, you can only see, if it's a dead calm day, 2.9 miles before the horizon drops off in your line of sight. The dreams that you have are typically way past that line of sight. If you're a halfway decent swimmer, you could be at the line of sight of your horizon in about 90 minutes. And the metaphor is this: you have to believe before you can see that dream of yours that's way past the horizon. So our jobs are to get you past that horizon. So, because once you get to the edge of the horizon where you're in that no man's land, that, oh, this is new to me. I haven't done this before. Oh, the wind, the waves, the water, they're pushing me back towards the rocks. And you start to focus on the rocks. Well, what will happen? You end up on the rocks. And sometimes you just hit the rocks because you're doing something new and you don't even know about it. The key is flipping your belief system and understanding, hey, wait a second, if I could do that thing that I did before, I can at least get started to do this thing, and I will have the faith to keep trying because I know I'm good enough. And when we get there, then we have the opportunity for success, even if we don't get there right away. That's the goal here.
Great visual. And I think that people don't recognize their limits, but putting it that way makes it really clear.
When you set sail for that new destination way past your horizon, staying with the metaphor for a moment, you're the captain of your own ship. You are co-creating your life, where you want to go. And you start struggling and you start saying a whole bunch of yeah, buts. I want you to understand this. You have 3 controllables: your thoughts, your focus, your beliefs. They're up to you. Very few things in life are up to you, but those 3 you have control of. You are the master and commander of making a thought, putting energy to it, that's focused, and believing, you know what, if I keep trying and I keep trying different ways, I might get a different outcome. And when we practice that again and again and again, you can do something that you didn't believe you could do at first, but that all starts with believing that you can do it. Focus on your controllables and watch how your destiny will change.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your stories about you personally and professionally. And thank you for what you do and who you want to help. Appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to the Yeah But podcast. If today's episode provided valuable perspective on how to overcome the excuses that can hold you back, let us know in the comments. Remember, it's not about the yeah buts. It's about finding ways to live, learn, and lead better every day. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little kick to get past their own yeah buts. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And for even more tips, connect with me at marcawolfe.com/podcast. Until next time, keep challenging those excuses and keep moving forward.